Hi, Miller. Thank you for submitting this. I really don't understand why this never came into my inbox, but thank you for nudging us, which allowed us to then look into it and see where the glitch was. Okay, so let's get this started. I know you're waiting for your correction, so let's get it to you. All right, we've got the rainfall. This is a tricky one for a lot of students, so let's see what you did with it. The line graph demonstrates the rainfall in England, Scotland, and Wales in milliliters during 2018. England's rainfall started around 110 ml in January, and after a significant variation over the first semester, it peaked at 150. Okay. Afterward, the ups and downs continued until reaching a new peak of 155 in December. Okay. Scotland had a similar pattern of fluctuation, but it was more profound. Rainfall stood at 120, and then the number plummeted, hitting a low of 20, and then it went up sharply, reaching a peak, 135. Okay, there was a constant variation afterward with values of 130, 55, and okay, fine. The case for Wales was a gradually increasing trend despite some monthly variation during the first semester of the year, with a remarkable value of 140, the highest number of the three countries. Okay, when? Okay, there was fluctuation over the second part of the 2018, reaching some variable values of this. Okay, fine. Overall, despite, I would have gotten rid of that A. Despite considerable variation in monthly precipitation for the three British countries, England had the highest average rainfall and Wales lowest. Okay, I think this is good. I want to do a quick word count just to see where you were with this because it felt kind of long. All right, it was 209 words, so it's fine. It's, for me at least, it's I typically tell students to stay no more than 200, but there's obviously a lot of information here. So it's kind of hard to do that with this one. I think in general, you did a good job because you picked out, for me, a lot of the key features. So you started with the beginning, you talked about the peak, and then you talked about the end. Okay. And then here again, you talked about the beginning, you talked about the peak, you talked about the low, and then you talked about the end. And let's see, for Wales, what did you do? Let's see, you talked about the peak. You didn't talk about the beginning here, but then you talked about the end. So I thought, compared to a lot of other answers I see for this, you did focus on a lot of the correct information. You also, I think, added some information that for me was maybe you could have left it out, maybe it was a little unnecessary. So let me show you for me what the points I think were worth mentioning are. Now, as I said before, there are 36 pieces of data in this line graph. I would say that 15 of them are important. Okay, so a little less than half. So as you did, I always start at the beginning. As far as I'm concerned, this is telling you a story, and it's telling you the story of rain in these three countries, okay? So what do we want to know in a story? We want to know the beginning, we want to know the end, and then we want to know those key points in the middle of the story that tell us really what's happening. So obviously, all three countries experienced a ton of fluctuation, okay? Obviously. So let's talk about that beginning in each country. Let's talk about those major points in the end because we always know that there's a lot of variation. So I would have actually started, and most people don't do this, I actually would have started with Scotland because I think it's worth mentioning that it's the country that starts with the highest rainfall in the beginning of the year. And I would mention that. I would also mention this dramatic drop to its lowest point the absolute next month. Like, I think it's so strange, right? Then it goes to the first of two peaks in the next month. So I would talk about point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, and then the end, point 5. Okay? So, yeah, I would probably say something like for Scotland, it started at the highest, and then the first 3 months of the year were the most dramatic with, starting here and then having that low and having the first two highs the next month at whatever that number is, and then saying that there was fluctuation, and then it had a second peak in October, and ending the year slightly below where it began at 105. Okay. Then I would talk about England, saying that it was a country with the second highest rainfall. Um, I would also, so then I would say where it started. I would say that uh, it fluctuated, but then it reached this low in May and June, and then continued on to have three peaks until the end of the year. One in July, one in September, and then one in December at whatever that number is, what, like 125 or something around there. Okay? And then you can imagine what I would do with Wales. The only thing that's different with Wales is that it has this period of stability. And this is the only one on the graph. And I think it's important to mention it. Okay, so for me, talking about Wales, I would say 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and then 0.5. Okay? So saying also that, making these comparisons, like, so Wales pretty much ended the year where it started, right? And then England maybe ended a little higher, and then Scotland ended a little lower. So making those comparisons as well to just kind of bring it all together. So that's how I would handle this. Not too different from what you would do, but just a little more focus in terms of which data points are worth bringing up. Okay, but I thought you did a great job. I didn't, there was something, oh, this is what I didn't like. I didn't like this expression, the ups and downs. The word is fluctuation. I was happy to see that you used it here, and I liked this sentence, that it was more profound. That was great. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of this word, ups and downs. You could have said words like volatility. You could have used fluctuation. Okay. Yeah, I know that you used it here. Maybe you could have just rephrased some of this. But yeah, volatility would have been nice. Variation you used. So only that ups and downs is what I didn't like in terms of your vocabulary. I thought the rest was great. Okay, I thought it was really good. So yeah, again, I might have been a little more selective with my data points, but in general, I think you got the right idea here. Okay, let's take a look at what you did with fathers staying home and mothers working. There is an ever-increasing trend of fathers staying home and caring for their children while mothers work outside. The reasons may vary, but may include the high incorporation rate of women into the workforce due to improved education skills and the need for both parents to be involved in child-raising activities. DECISA believes it is a positive development, and we'll discuss why to demonstrate points and prove arguments. Okay, good. I'm glad that you incorporated what I've been telling you about making your position clear throughout, so that's great. Women progressively have access to better education, translating into more female workers in different working scenarios. Many jobs demand highly developed skills and education, which were in the past positions for men only. Recent empirical research by the United Kingdom government demonstrated how rates of women's access to corporate, not corporative, corporate jobs are relatively high compared to numbers of the last decade, 42% during the, okay. On the other hand, there is a rising awareness about the relevance of men accomplishing different tasks at home, primarily looking after their children. That could explain how roles have been changing due to more sensitive fathers who want to be part of the daily activities of their offspring instead of merely passive bystanders. Okay. Okay. You're supposed to ask why and is this positive? So what are you telling me here? You're telling me that women have higher skills, and so their access to jobs is higher. On the other hand, men are becoming more aware of their importance as caregivers. All right, we'll talk a little bit more about it. Let's see what you wrote in the other paragraph, though. Men staying home looking after their children. Careful, it's has, because this whole thing here, this noun phrase is your subject, this whole phrase. And it's a singular subject, okay, because it is a phrase. And so it should have a singular verb. So it should be men staying home looking after their children has several positive consequences. Do you understand what I mean? It's not men have consequences, okay? It's this situation, this whole noun phrase is your subject. So it should have that singular verb. Firstly, it helps develop some parenting skills that are useful for home tasks and other working environments. Okay, what does that mean? Secondly, it assures that raising children does not rest only on, not over, it rests on someone's shoulders, making more balanced nurture possible. All right, it's a little awkward as an expression. We don't really say balanced nurture. In addition, men's parenting has been increasingly impacting children's lives as adults. A study by Oxford showed that men's parenting is associated with more resilient children and teenagers compared to those coming from homes where only the mother oversees breeding. Breeding, again, is also not the right word. I mean, in terms of this context, it's not right. Okay, breeding would be used in other contexts, but not here. From the arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that fathers taking care of their children is a positive development, and the reason behind that phenomenon includes more participation of women in the workforce, not working force, workforce. Fathers being more aware of their role in nurturing their children. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Let me see your word count, and I'll tell you why in a minute. All right, 322. So you actually wrote quite a bit. I thought that this might be around 300. So you did write quite a bit. I felt, first of all, the great news is that your grammar and your grammar was very good. Your vocabulary did have some awkward instances, but it's still at a nice high level. Okay. So yeah, there was some awkwardness, but it still would get a good score. There's no question about that in my mind. I'm sure that in terms of grammar and vocabulary, you'll get a good score on this. Your coherence and cohesion was very good. All right. So in three of the criteria, I thought you did a great job. In terms of task achievement, I I felt like there was more to say. I felt like you could have developed more. Okay. Let me tell you what I mean. I mean that you were talking here about fathers being more involved, but it's not talking about fathers being more involved. It's talking about staying at home. Do you understand what I mean? And so women are working, and fathers are saying, like, you know what? We'll completely do a 180-degree change. I will stay home and you will work. Okay. So this is not just about fathers being more involved. This is about fathers saying, like, I'm going to give up my career to stay home with my children. Do you understand the difference? So I felt like you didn't really cover that. All right, you talked about accomplishing different tasks, primarily looking after their children. Uh, there was more to it. It needed more development. Yes, I agree with focusing on. I'm glad you focused on both of them. So you didn't focus just on men. You didn't focus just on women. But I thought there still was a little more to do here. I read this paragraph again, trying to see if I could find some suggestions for you. Um, just looking at how you kind of broke down the two, like all of this was dedicated to women. I'm wondering if you could have condensed this a little bit more, just condensed it, maybe make it like I don't know, like balance the paragraph a little more is what I'm trying to say. So you could have given more emphasis to this idea of men, just maybe something like shifting perspectives in society have made it more socially acceptable for men to leave their careers behind and instead focus on child rearing. Okay, so it's more socially acceptable. Women are now earning enough money to making this possible. And so some men who feel that they're better utilized staying at home with the children now feel it is okay to do so. So do you understand? Like I really wanted you to kind of grab this idea and go with it. Okay. I don't know if I'm helping you. I hope I am, but I felt like there wasn't really enough kind of focus on that. Let's see. And then let me look at this paragraph again. Okay, so I liked this part where you talked about the parenting has been impacting children's lives. They're more resilient. I thought that was good. I didn't think this was so great. Like this whole wait. Yeah, I felt like this section was weak for a couple of reasons. Um, you talked about parenting skills and home tasks. You didn't develop it. You threw it out there and you gave no support to this idea. And so that for me was a problem. Then you said it does not only rest on women's shoulders, making more balanced. I already told you I didn't like this vocabulary, but I also felt like you didn't really cover that. I thought what maybe you should have talked about is how about the fact that women working now rather than focusing just on child rearing, has allowed them to be more mentally, how can I say this, more psychologically well balanced. Okay. Um, it's improved marital relations for a lot of couples. Maybe you could have talked about how women are providing an excellent role model for their children and men, actually. So this role reversal is really providing a wonderful role model for their children to understand that different roles in the family are possible. So I thought there was more you could have said. I felt like this was weak. All right, everything I've highlighted here. I did like this though. So I'm just trying to give you some ideas about how you could have talked about this and what you could have said. All right, but as far as an essay goes, I thought it was good. Um, Obviously, I don't want it just to be good. I want for you, because I know that you have skills and you also need a high score, I want it to be a really strong essay. Okay. And so that's why I'm trying to give you some of these suggestions in terms of task achievement. So yeah, good work overall. Happy with it. Just those things that I've talked about throughout the correction. Grammar, great. Vocabulary, some instances of awkwardness, but on the whole, good. Your task one was very good. You definitely got the right idea. I just wanted a little more focus. And I think here I wanted a little more focus. Okay, so that's the kind of synopsis of this correction. Looking forward to seeing more of your work. Hopefully, we won't have any more glitches and we won't delay getting this back to you. So, looking forward to seeing more of your work. Good luck.